Welcome back to Navigating the Ship. Sarah Bierman and Annabelle Drum here. Today we're going to just do some updates on the crazy world situation. In our last video, we were talking about what's going on with George Floyd. It's called drowning in information because there's just so much coming in, and some of it is conflicting with other things. You know, are they actors, or do they know each other, or are they pretending? I mean, unless you're there, you can't be 100% sure on all the information. I mean, even if you see it with your own two eyes, right? It could be fake. So we're just, throw some stuff out.
Yeah, and it being a war on information that they know that we, the citizen journalists, are going to immediately use the facial recognition software to find who these people are. And immediately there were different people coming up saying, here he is, a cash cow guy or something, and here's these different people. And now George Floyd shows up at his funeral, which I added in after our conversation. And then there's a twin brother with sunglasses and a beard. Seriously? So they're watching all of that at the same time and trying to counteract it, which is why the whole background, I mean, if they are actors, the whole background of their story came out immediately afterwards to try and cover over everything. And what were you saying about the police station as well?
Oh, it turns out the club that both of the guys worked at was vandalized, destroyed during the riots. And the police station that had all the evidence about what had gone down there was also destroyed. So it's like, nothing to see here.
Yeah. Cover it up so you can't look through it.
Some other things people have noticed is that when you look at the videos of the guy beforehand, so like they get him out of the car, push him against the wall, he sits down, drops the bag. Was that it? There was some point where you could see his chest, and he didn't have the tattoo that he supposedly has on his chest. And then there was another bit where they closed in on when they put him up on the stretcher, and it looks like he doesn't have any legs for just a minute there. So, maybe it's, and there's a company that got destroyed also during the riots that makes mannequins that you can use for resuscitation training.
Very
and, they show the guys, and, it looks like a very real black man, it's like, who knows?
God. Actually, the destroying of evidence reminds me of New Zealand, actually, when they had their Christchurch shoot 'em up, the white guy from Australia imported to shoot up the mosque. First of all, we saw a video of the rehearsal. People are kind of sitting around, just chopping away, waiting for their turn, leaning against a wall, and other people lying. Like you look out the window and there's people lying on there, and they're having a chat over the top of the people lying down. So they're having the whole rehearsal. And then when it happened, people immediately said, "There's 3 shooters, not one." But then the news showed only one being arrested with his, 666 sign. Back to front, round the back, because he had his hands handcuffed. What they were worried about, I think, is because people are so good now at looking for the deep fake videos that I noticed on my phone when it first happened that Apple News said, shooting in Christchurch. And the first message that came through before anything else was that a witness put their head inside the mosque once the shooters had supposedly gone. It was bloody brave, if you ask me. And could see a pile of bodies but no blood. And then when the video came out, of course, there's blood everywhere. And so we're going, okay, so is this CGI? And then the video disappears, and then they're going to jail anybody who has a copy of the video. So they're absolutely determined. They know that there's something in there that's too obvious, and they're trying desperately to cover it up. So that's what reminds me of what you're saying of destroying the police station and all the evidence about the nightclub. Is because there's too many holes in the story that people would be able to see if they were given the chance, that it's not the case.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes, how can people, it's so obvious that how can people not see it? How can they not see that this stuff is fake? And then I realized, okay, wait a minute. If they were to admit that the newscaster told them something fake and everything they're being told about this event was a lie, then you have to extrapolate out from that. Does that mean everything I've been told all these years is a lie too? So, it's not just it's not just one event that's hard for them to see, because if they see that one event, then it means everything. The whole world view is gone. And then you get the cognitive dissonance. You're smacked into that wall. It's like, no, it's got to be fake. It's fake. I'm going back to trusting my mainstream media, the vanguard, you know.
It is trust. It's a trust issue, isn't it? The incredible level of deceit is so hard to finally let it sink in and go, these people are making movies and putting them up as news. That is so appalling when these people, you know, millions of people trust them. It is so appalling. It's just such bad play to think that you've been deceived that much, and therefore what is real, you know. It's reminds me of the Da Vinci Code when that came out, and I gave it to my mum, who was an elder in the church. She was very much into being a good person and, you know, dedicated to her church. And this idea that Mary Magdalene was not what she'd been told, that she was a prostitute, that maybe she was his partner, or that they had a child or whatever, it was just, she couldn't handle that, because if the church has been lying to her about that, same thing, right? What else is the church lied about? How, if this is your foundation that you've laid your life upon, and you suddenly have no foundation, where does that leave you? Just falling? I think this is their fear. This is the worry. And so you've got to have a lot of compassion for people who are terrified of these deceptions.
Yeah, it's true. Well, you know, it's some of the stuff, I mean, it's almost like they've taken it too far. At the time when we were recording, there's 6 square blocks in Seattle, Washington, that the Antifa has taken over, and they said it's an independent state, you know, and we want people to volunteer to become our police. We reject your police. We're not part of the United States anymore. And then one of the persons who coordinated it, an 18-year-old lesbian, they, I believe is her Twitter thing, was like, please, can you send us some vegan meat or soy products? The homeless people we invited in ate all our food. Oh, I just hate it. I mean, you know, there are all these big tough people, and it's like, we need some vegan meat. Oh Lord. Yeah.
And just the whole idea that Washington is now separate from the states, that even in itself is hilarious, isn't it? Good grief.
It's ridiculous. And also in this country and other places as well, I think it's going on. You know, they're taking down the statues of people who were in the Confederate, or, you know, the wrong side of slavery, I guess. And, you know, how far do you take this? I mean, Washington owned slave, I think. So, you know, are we going to rename Washington, D.C. into Lincoln, D.C.? You know,
True.
It's ridiculous. You know, that cute phrase, sometimes you can't tell people, you have to show them. I mean, I'm thinking back, if 2 months ago or longer, we were to say, oh, they're planning this fake pandemic, and you're going to be in lockdown in your house, and you're not going to be able to out in public, and when you do, you have to wear a mask, and then there's going to be rioting everywhere, and they're going to take over cities, and they're going to disband the police, defund the police. You'd be going,
And put you in an asylum.
Yeah. You're fucking crazy, man. Yeah. You have to show them. I mean,
it is do you think it's the wild end to the movie? You know, other people have gone, oh, there's going to be more and more and more and more after this. But I'm thinking, you know, the way that it is becoming so obvious, like you're just saying, that more people are going, hang on a minute. And the more people who do that, the more we'll spot the fakes and spot the actors and start to see the ridiculous.
I have good news. My family joined me for a belated birthday dinner. My middle son spent the night, and the next day I had to go get a new tire on my car. Somebody slashed my tire. Confirmed by the mechanic. So I don't. That's another story. But so he gave me a ride to go do an errand I needed to do, and when we were riding along, we were talking about this whole thing, and I told him why I thought it was fake and why I thought they had done it in the first place, and then he stopped, and I ran in and did my errand, and when I came back, he said, while you were in there, I just looked at the videos, and he did drop a little white bag, and that does look fake. Wow, it's all fake. And then we had a discussion about Trump, because it's really obvious, because he travels for his work, because I go to really Republican places like Texas and all that, and they're really great people, and you can see the wonderful side of being a Republican. But then you meet the Democrats in the Democrat area, and there's really great people, and you can see the really positive sides of being a Democrat. He said, I don't, this whole divide has been created, and the media is the culprit. It's working so hard to keep the division. It was just like, he just was like, it's become shockingly evident to him. And I left it there. I didn't go into QAnon. I didn't go into pedophilia and anything like that yet, but that was enough
just a
for
little
now.
piece at a time. Yeah.
Yes.
I find that when I'm on doing social media as well, just give a little piece. Actually, there was, I think it was Magenta Pixie, who's got a huge following. She's more on the spiritual psychic side of things. She says, put up a piece of news and then say nothing underneath. Let them all rat it out underneath, and not have to try and defend it yourself. Which
the other
is
thing,
a relief, to do it that way rather than thinking you have to fight against a whole lot of people that are asleep. Just let it.
I also told my son about that there were spiritual people who I followed for a long time who were, into extraterrestrials and spiritual things and secret space program. And I mentioned David Wilcock, who's the best-selling author and all this and that. These people had been talking years before any of this came around of there being an alliance of people who saw that there was so much corruption in the world, in the governments, and in the three-letter agencies, and that they put together a plan, and that they actually, what they're coming through is they actually recruited Trump. And I mean, who else but his personality, is what I said to my son, could withstand the amount of brutal abuse he's taken for it. And he goes, okay, that just pushed just a little bit on him. And I just
That's enough.
Back off, move along.
Yeah, you're pushing your luck there, my goodness.
Just a little bit. I said, and I'm one of those people. And I'm one of those spiritual people who thinks that, you know what? Good or bad about the guy, I think we needed him to do the job. There was a huge pedophilia arrest.
Oh,
Did I send you that?
You did,
14.
but I didn't see it. 40 boys. Now, usually with the press, with the media, they'll make a huge fuss when there is one child missing. And it's usually a parent that's kidnapped the child. And everyone goes, okay, it's all right. Like we're all good. Oh, let's look around for the car, look around. Oh, it's okay. It's just one of the parents has kidnapped the child and it's a divorce or whatever. Yeah, but 14 boys, like you're saying, hey, nobody noticed that 14 boys were missing. Where are they from?
Little boys, 4 to 7 years old.
And nobody noticed? This is very interesting. So I'm wondering if that is just like a little taste of trying to, like Australians will go, oh, look at all the crazy Americans and what they're doing. But they don't realize that they're basically falling for the same thing. We got a video as well of a white cop kneeling on top of a black boy. Same thing. And they don't realize that they are just falling for the same material. But when we hear about all the tunnels across America and, the hope and the comfort, big white ships coming in and then mysteriously leaving again, with nobody actually talking about the fact that they might be full of children that have been pulled up from the tunnels, the fact that there are tents over Central Park in New York. People don't really, they'll go, oh, well, that's just America. They're full of sin. But they don't really stop to think about the fact that Australia might have something similar going on. And so I wonder if that is just a little bit of a taster to get people into the idea that the trafficking may be happening here as well, which will make them feel rather sick. I'm sure, because it's much easier to point your finger at America on the other side of the world, but to realize that it's happening here as well it's going to be really hard.
Okay, enough of the George Floyd riots and stuff. What's going on that we're all being distracted from? I mean, in the background, we've got Attorney General Bill Barr chipping away at the whole Russian collusion hoax, and he's finding people, and he stated in an interview something along the lines of that You know, he gets a little irritated when people on both sides of the political fence say, you know, if you've got something going, why are there no indictments? What's not happening? And he said that the legal system moves slowly, and there's a reason for it. It has to be clear, but arrests are coming. And then, of course, Hillary Clinton lost her appeal to avoid being interviewed about the emails, which is coming back around. So that's happening in September. So I think there's so much going on in the world, and people are starting to see the lies. And so now from there, once people are broke free from the solidity of their old world view a little with all this, and even if they're still believing the lies, still having your world be so radically changed. Like I said, you know, 2 months ago, if I'd said this was going to happen, people would say, not in my country, not in my world. No way. Right. So already it's sort of breaking it free. And so then when the indictments start to come out and these other things, then people will be more able to receive it and not just bounce off of it. So,
and I think the more people see all the stuff that's coming out on the media as being, look over here, that you'll be able to look over the top of it, like watching an argument of kiddies on the ground, and be able to look over the top and see actually what's really, just kids, just step aside, will you? And the media, they're already losing so many viewers and subscribers and followers. People are not watching the news anymore. Either they turn it off because it's just so depressing or confusing, or they'll start to go, that's just rubbish. That is entertainment. They are listed as an entertainment network for a reason. So let's just push that aside and go, let's look over here. What on earth is going on over here? And then they'll start to see those hearings, right?
Right. Yeah, there's going to be the Flynn stuff is coming around too. And we did a video a long time ago about Flynn, and we both felt like even then that he's really is a good guy. And now with what's been coming out, he was obviously framed. They went in there deliberately trying to set him up to try to get him to lie. And even though the agents who interviewed him came back and wrote he didn't lie, they still went, you know, they were going to close the whole thing down, but then it came from the top. No, keep it open. We're going for, I mean, it's all coming out so clearly. The Judge Sullivan, is doing everything he can in crazy amounts. Bill Barr is like, this is unprecedented. You just don't do this. He's trying to take on a role of a prosecutor instead of a judge, which is absolutely wrong. But he's trying desperately to avoid ending this whole thing because Flynn can't talk about it while this is still going on. And Flynn knows everything. So when, you know, and he put on his Twitter, I'm not done. You know, he's letting us all know he's got the juice. He's got the sauce. He knows it all. He was right there up close and personal. And when this thing is over, boom.
I thought of something else that I wanted to add into the previous conversation as well, was crop circles. So we haven't really talked about these much at all, but these days, like, they started off very simple. These days have become so sophisticated and so incredibly beautiful. In the last week or so, there have been 3 new crop circles that are just beautiful. One is the yin and yang. So when you look at it, at first it looks like you think coronavirus, but there's actually more to it. There's another extra extension part that comes out from there. And somebody did an interpretation of it in terms of chemistry and the periodic table. And what they came up with was that it was chlorine dioxide.
Wow.
Yeah, as an answer to coronavirus. This is just one interpretation. Most of the crop circles are multidimensional, which means you can get many different meanings out of the same image from different angles as well. They're not always perfectly round and symmetrical and that sort of thing. So it's always interesting. I find when I watch lectures on crop circles that you have someone standing at the front and they're very proud of their knowledge and they say, this is it, this is the meaning. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's really very simplistic view. If you actually asked everybody in the audience what they saw, you would pick up many, many meanings for that one thing. Because different brains think in different ways, and you'll get new perspectives out of it through that, providing you don't assume that one person knows the answer.
Yeah, well, they're designed that way. Symbols are designed to be multidimensional and have more than one meaning. You know? That's why you can have signs like the all-seeing eye in a pyramid, and it can have a good aspect and it can have a bad interpretation. So I guess that's about it for this week.
It is. Just keep calm. And I think that one thing that's useful in when you're looking at the news, rather than look at the subject and say, oh my goodness, that's terrible, to go, okay, why would they want to do that? It's a really good way of changing your view slowly of looking at the news. What's the purpose of this particular piece? Do they want to change our opinion? Do they want to make an excuse for something else that's about to happen? Just look for the why rather than the what.
Perfect.
Okay, that'll do for now. Have a nice week.
Bye.